Hello everyone, I am author Kevin L. Antoine and I am participating in the Trilogy Christian Publishing Group Challenge. This is day number 5. Today I'm here to discuss my first and only book, Memoir, My Testimonies. And today I want to talk to you about the time the Lord spoke to me and told me to start fasting because He wanted me to grow in faith. God prompted me to grow in faith and then He tested my faith. The year was 2015, and the Lord spoke to me and told me to start a fast. I was a Christian, and I had fasted in the past, but it had been a while since my last fast. I started fasting, and God told me to go and look at houses to purchase. This was an odd request because at the time, I was not interested in purchasing a house. I moved to Texas a year earlier and was living in a rental house in San Antonio. I signed a 2-year contract for the rental house, and only a year had passed, so I still had a year-long obligation in the rented house. I didn't know it at the time, but God knew something I didn't know, and He just wanted me to trust Him. Well, I contacted my bank to get pre-approved for a home loan, and they told me I was pre-approved for $275,000. Keep in mind, I'm still not interested in buying a house at the time because it seemed premature, to say the least. I noticed some home builders in our neighborhood, and I decided to schedule an appointment with them just to talk about buying a house. I showed up at the scheduled appointment, but the builder's agent was unavailable to speak with me. So he told me to go down the street and speak with a realtor he was working with. As I walked down the street, I saw a very tall man walking towards me. He bore a striking resemblance to a former NBA player, including the same 6'8" frame. This was the realtor I needed to speak to, and I agreed to have him take me around nearby neighborhoods to show me houses. He took me to a house that was showing for $400,000, far beyond what I was approved for. Somehow the discussion led to my disability rating, and he asked, "Did you know that you don't have to pay property taxes because of your rated disability?" I vaguely remembered that, but had not factored it into my pre-approval. Not having to pay a very high property tax in the state of Texas changed the ceiling on the amount a person can afford to spend on a house. I was still thinking all of this is just academic because I was not ready, in my opinion, to buy a house, but God had other plans for me. Then the realtor took me into a new gated community and showed me a very gaudy house. My first question was about the price of the house. He said $410,000, but it had been on the market for a while and he was certain the builder would come down on the price. I was still concerned about paying both mortgage and rent for another year. I could pull it off, but it just didn't make sense to buy at that time. Why not wait until my lease is done? Well, I felt led to buy that house, so I did. And now I was on the hook for a mortgage and rent for the other house. I alerted the rental agency that I had bought a house and were moving. And of course, they abruptly reminded me about my obligation to the rental house. I explained I was prepared to continue to make payments and would drive by the property ever so often to make sure it was secure. Well, I settled into my new home, and the very first time I drove by the rental house, I noticed a car in the driveway, and it looked like someone had moved in. I immediately contacted the rental agency, and they said they were about to contact me to let me know that the owner had moved back into his house. Therefore, I was relieved of my year-long obligation. The moral of the story is when God is ready to move, He needs our faith to be activated so that we will trust Him even when it doesn't make sense to us. God is good. All right, that's all that I have for you. I will be back here tomorrow as I share another testimony from my book, Memoir, My Testimonies.